Okay, so we're all aware of how the government has been stating that they're doing things like the bedroom tax and all these other things in names of saving money from taxes. Yet their most recent decision is that every pensioner, once they reach pension age, should get all of their cash in a lump sum of what they should be entitled to as a pension, which is really rather irresponsible considering how many pensioners there would be and in lump sums of hundreds of thousands of pounds, rather than keeping in the government tax monies where they would be saving interest and it would be rationed out sensibly at the weekly rates so that they're not, wasting it all and then going, oh, well, we've got no money, we need some support now. No, instead they're going to hand it all out on a plate regardless. They claim they're going to calculate exactly how long people have to live and pay them set amount for however long they're supposed to live. Because it's not an exact science. People will either live shorter or longer, and they're going to be very, very irresponsible and expect even more money, so the government's going to end up paying even more money out. Now back to the issue of the bedroom tax and how they've illegally withheld people's rents and other things like that. That only ever came about after the whole scandal of MPs using tax money to get second homes. So it seems like they're kind of doing it spitefully to say, well, if we can't have second homes, you can't have second bedrooms, or if you're under 35, you're not allowed to have your own flats, which is the stupidest thing in the world. I mean, come on. Not only are they being completely stupid and not allowing people to look for work or get on with their lives, if it was, say, over 55 or retirement people, if you're on benefits at that age, then you could go into a retirement home. You're more of a case where you need to be looked after, whereas at a young age, especially as they're not even considering people with disorders, like OCD, depression, panic anxiety, various things which 1 in 4 people suffer from. And they don't take into account your personal situation, like if you're expecting a baby and you need your own place and clean for that baby to visit. No, they don't take that into consideration. They don't take anything into consideration. Not only that, because you're under 35 and you're only entitled to the shared rate is based on the 30th percentile of the rents in the area, which, if you look at the graph, which will be coming up, should be, if I edit it, it shows that it's low, there's the digital curve at the bottom and then the curve at the top. But the 30th percent, it's not the mean, median, or mode, it's just the exact where it is. It's one of them, obviously. It sounds stupid completely just saying that. But yes, they don't do it properly based on the majority of the rents in the area. It's based on the point between the bottom rent and the top rent, but the most common rent, which would be the most sensible. And the 30th percentile at the bottom, that also makes it more difficult, again, for people to get houses. So they want young people who would be seeking employment out on the streets where they can't do anything and just be completely useless to society. And if they had their own flats, which if you look again at the graphs, there's far more people in single bed flats than there are in shared accommodation. But no, that's another problem. And on top of that, I've done research into what mortgage repayments you would pay on, say, flats of £50,000, £60,000, and the mortgage repayments for the single bed flats are cheaper than the rents that they're proposing. So if they would buy these flats that are becoming available, then they could rent out at the stupid shared accommodation rate and not have to have shared accommodation. But they don't wish to purchase more council houses, even though there's a huge demand for them. Okay. And if you look again at the website, It can say that shared accommodation can go up to over £250 per week. Yet that area I'm unsure of. So that makes it a postcode lottery again, because it's only based on the area rents where you live. And if in the second city of England, the one that takes over as capital of London goes down, the highest that you're allowed is £56 per week, then it kind of states, well, where would you expect to find £258 worth of rent per week shared accommodation? You know, major metropolitan cities such as Birmingham, you're only entitled to £56, whereas probably some hoity-toity posh countryside place where they're all friends with the MPs, they're entitled to £256 per week, or something other stupid like that. Yes, I do tend to talk a bit like Yoda when I'm irritated. And there goes the dog, also irritated. Shut up. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, how do they expect people to live like that and get on with things like that when they just find excuses to cut people off? And the fact that you're under 35 and really you'd be more productive if you have a place and be able to work and do things, but no, they don't want you to work. They want you to just non-exist as a statistic, because once you're not claiming jobs, once you're not on housing benefits, you're claimed as, you know, it's not a statistic as someone who's unemployed, not a statistic as someone who's homeless. You're just not a statistic, so they've reduced the statistics. So they say that they've got more people employed when really they've just cut them off entirely and thrown them to the side. And Panorama also had a show where they were showing the London refugees that were being ferried out to Birmingham. So that creates even more of a housing crisis in Birmingham, rather than put them somewhere near London or somewhere out in the middle of nowhere in the countryside. You know, if they're refugees, rather than screw over the second city, they could have put them somewhere where they might be productive, or somewhere where they'll be happy and comfortable and not a burden to society. Instead, shoving them in Birmingham, they'll still continue to not want work and do whatever, and you know, it's just not helpful to society and not helpful to anyone. But that's where the government never seems to care. They give what elderly people want. That's why they're giving them all this lump sum. It's the elderly vote. And that's all they're ever concerned about, because they think, oh, well, only elderly people vote, so we'll do whatever the elderly people want. Maybe if they started doing things that would help society and help young people and not screw them over, you know, it's like screw under 35, well, fuck them over and, you know, not care about them because they won't ever vote. Well, maybe there's a reason that young people don't vote. They should start doing things that would help them, doing things that would be advantageous to them. People would then start voting for them. Okay, so there's the party political broadcasts that go old-fashioned music and really make people turn it off before they even pay attention. If they did just a normal advert, like a bulletin board of points of what people want, what would be advantageous to young people, they would pay attention to that, they would notice that, and then they would start voting. So, you know, it would be a way to get young people to vote. Or if they actually started to listen to young people, or had a way, like an internet bulletin board where you could put points across that you needed voting on, people would start voting and raising issues and actually be able to have their voice heard, rather than just ignored because they're not over 55 and, you know, faffing about retired for the next 45 years. No, they would rather have people... It's the stupidest thing, you know. They pass society, they're retired now, they're not working, they're not helping England draw forward, but they're the most important. They get all the healthcare, they get everything. And young people, no, let's just turn them into mobile organ donors for the elderly. Yeah, because that makes sense, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. So maybe we need to have our voice heard. Maybe we should register as MPs, because all it takes is £5,000, so maybe if we all chipped in together, kickstart the campaign. Stupid Society for the Young. And we have a bulletin board where people pay attention, and with the £5,000 we can have MPs in every county and actually get on the board and change this screwed over country. Because the Queen has no powers to do anything, no one else cares. The MPs are all happy as Larry to do whatever they want in their boys' club. And they say, remember the 5th of November? Yeah, well, they remember it for the wrong reasons, don't they? He actually sent a letter to the King saying, oh, don't go to Parliament this day, for your own safety. It wasn't an assassination attempt on the King, it was a screwed over government that needed sorting out. That started in the Midlands as well, so maybe that's where all the discontent starts. And, remember the 5th of November. We can take out government if you push us too far. That's all that you ever need to hear, But, hey, maybe this gets taken down, maybe no one ever hears it. And if so, then, there's something dodgy going on, don't you? Yeah. Under 35s having to live in shared accommodation. Under 25, that would make sense, because you're probably at university at that point, and that also supports the stay in education thing, because you might as well stay in education, go to university, live in shared accommodation. No, but once you've passed that and you need a job and you want your own space, or you need your own space for, your own sanity, no, they don't seem to care about that. And it just doesn't make any sense. There's no exceptions. It's the same with disabled people. Oh no, you lost 3 limbs, but you're still able to use the last one, so why don't you just get a job? And that brings the issue of gaslighting as well, It's a very gaslighting government. They don't care about any sort of conditions. It's just like, oh, you have, you're not trying hard enough if you're not able to. It's really not good. 1 in 4 people have mental disorders. That's just the ones that they know of and declared, and the majority of young people seem to have more, but that's because they're getting screwed over more, so it's probably causing more mental anguish, and that's why this government is just so wrong in what they do, because they are causing the statistics to go up. They're making more people angry, upset, depressed, because there's no ability to get jobs that they could sort out easily with the odd change to the regulations and various different things, and they could make homes more available to the young who would need it more. No. And yeah, maybe they should just stop illegal immigrants coming over, or people from the people from the EU, when our own country's this messed up, there shouldn't be, oh yeah, let's bring them all over to live here and work here just because it's in the EU, that's allowed. Society might work better if we had our own jobs available and a place to live, rather than giving it to everyone from Timbuktu, because the rest of the EU is all makes jobs. Let's bring everyone else in, It's like third world countries with terrible economies. But no, let's all bring them in so everyone can move to England. Yeah, that's working, isn't it? Don't you think? Anyway. Just investigate it for yourself. You will see how seriously messed up this entire situation is, whether you're working, whether you're not. People who want to just aren't able to, and people who want to have roofs over their head just aren't able to, and that's why so many people are living at home with their parents and on sofas and floating around, just because there's this complete inability, and meanwhile they shove in more and more people from the EU. Let's see how much of... Look at the size of Europe, and look at the size of England. Let's see how much of Europe we can fit into England before it explodes, yeah? It's like a balloon. It'll pop. Thanks for watching. See you around.